Daniel here, 619IT. A day in the life of me. I get this question all the time. Celeron, Pentium, Core 3, Ultra, AMD, Intel, which one do I need? Let me tell you, it's not always straightforward, but we're getting closer to it making a lot of sense. These are the CPUs that are in your laptops, your desktops, your servers. These things are awesome. They're powerful, they get hot. They do a lot of really cool things, and these really allow us to turn on the computer and get things done. You've probably heard of gigahertz, you've probably heard of sockets, you've probably heard of all these different things, and what matters? So when I sum it up for my clients, the question is always, which one do I need in my computer? And I will say it varies depending on the type of work that the person that's going to be using the computer will need. So if I have an assistant, a secretary, someone that's doing a little bit more Word document, Excel type stuff, and I don't need them to have, latest and greatest, I would say an i3 Intel processor is about where I'd get them started. It's a good value computer processor. This is the brain that makes the whole thing happen. And with today's i3s, we're not going to be waiting on the computer. If you are, let's say, an executive in an organization, you're running it, you really want something that's going to perform and keep up with you more than that i3, the i5 is the sweet spot where we direct most of our clients to buy their computers. Still a good mix of value, excellent mix of performance, and we're not overpaying for latest and greatest bleeding edge. i7 is where you start getting into, and these are all Intel by the way, enthusiast grade computing. So we want a little bit more cores, we might need a little bit more cooling, we might be okay with a little bit bigger, thicker, heavier cooling solution and the whole thing. And the i7, like I'm running an i7 here on my desktop, but I'm an enthusiast. I like having a little bit of the latest and greatest. The i7 you'll pay a little bit more for, but you're going to get more performance out of that i7. And in each generation, those i3, i5, i7 tend to stay the same throughout all the different generations. There's one change I'll tell you about here that's actually quite modern. But the last one I'll talk about is the i9. The i9 is more recently added in the last few years, and that is really for your AI researchers or people doing scientific stuff where they just need, money's not an object, they'll overpay for that bleeding edge performance, and they don't mind because they need it. That's the person that needs an i9. Most of our clients are not buying i9s unless they're in life sciences, biotechnology, something like that, or really video editing, maybe some ad agency type work. The i9, you're spending a lot more money for not a lot more return. The i7 and the i5 are a good sweet spot for where we're spending good money, and the i3 is the best value play. There are options below that i3. There's Celeron, there's Pentium, and those have a place in the world. I don't really recommend them for a computer that a user is going to do work on. I like those for computers that are housing data. So we talked a little bit earlier on another video about solid state drives versus hard drives. There's a thing called a NAS, or a network attached storage device. NASs can get away with just a Celeron or a Pentium processor because they're not driving a video. They can, but they're not really doing a display. They're just keeping the drives accessible on the network. So there's a time and place for these really, really low cost solutions. But if I've got a user, I'm paying a salary and I want someone to be getting a good return on their time sitting in front of the computer, I want to make sure I empower my team with the technology, where the technology is not holding them back. So that's a little bit long and short on the Intel. In summary, I like the best bang for the buck for my employees, where I'm paying a salary, I want to make sure that salary is not waiting on the computer. It's the difference between a $200 processor and a $230 processor, and I'm paying a salary and having someone wait for that $30 because I saved a few bucks on the bottom end processor. I always try to steer the client to the right solution based on what type of role the person's going to be using it is playing. So last thing I want to mention, or one of the other things, Intel, as we've all moved into AI workloads and ChatGPT and LLMs, and working to run some of those types of more complex computing on our local computers, Intel has changed their naming convention. We talked about that i3, i5, i7. Now we have Ultra. And Ultra is Intel's way of saying these are going to be AI-enabled computers on the desktop side of things. Now we have Ultra 5, Ultra 7. I think we might be getting an Ultra 3 if we don't already. And Ultra is just replacing the I. So all the same, which computer I would be pairing with the right user still applies. At this moment in time, we still have all the I computers, the i5, i3, i7s. And those are all it. So look out for the Ultra computers. Those are going to be our AI branded and enabled computers. And in all candidness, we've played with some Ultra computers. We like to help clients select those because they are the modern ones. But at this very moment, there's not a real compelling use case to go out of your way. If it's an i5 or i7 compared to an Ultra 5 or an Ultra 7, we haven't found a use case that really takes use of that yet. It's coming. Cortana, I'm sure, Windows 11, Windows 12, whatever the next thing is going to be making use of it. But at this very moment, there's not a lot that makes use of that new neural engine. I'd love to see that change, and perhaps we'll be posting an update when that does. But for now, don't shy away from the i5, the i7. They're still great options. Thanks so much, Daniel, 619IT.